the train. Take a few moments of your time to ensure you have all luggage belongings with you, which any times you do need these to exit the station. If you see anything suspicious, please report it to a member of staff, or you can text the British Transport Police on 61016. Remember the 3 S's: see it, say it, sorted.
This is a film about whether we should all live together on our planet in one politics, or whether we should separate ourselves into different nation states. I'm here at the start of the latest of the rallies against British decision to leave the European Union, a union of 28 different countries. And I'm here to think about the question that stays in my mind, whether all the people who are coming here, including myself, are right in their view that we should break down borders and that we're best if we come together in a political union. Certainly people here believe that that should happen on a continental basis in Europe. I think that we should be thinking about that happening for the whole world, partly because of the justice of all of us being treated as equals no matter where we're born, and also for some practical reasons about saving ourselves and our civilization from climate change and from other pollutions that we allow ourselves to commit within the nation-state model. But if we think of ourselves as a whole society in the world, then perhaps we won't be quite so ready to make a mess of things. The British struggle that's taken place in the last 3 years, the struggle to work out Brexit and whether we should do it and how we should do it, to me is well presented as a clash, a polarised question. Are we internationalists, like the people here, or are we more concerned about our home and our security, the security that we find behind national borders? To me, that's a very important question, and as we've seen British politicians struggle to make sense of it, there's been a real reminder that we live in a world where nation states compete and the European Union seeks to preserve the interests of its citizens, and also other states, America, China, perhaps Russia, take an interest in what happens and seek to promote their own interests and the concerns of their citizens. So it feels like quite a risk to say, do you know what, we should leap into an internationalism and we should put our faith in it. And for the people here, that we should put our faith in the European Union as an international community. And for me, I think that, you know, should we put our faith in a world union eventually? Raises big questions. Actually, just does that make sense for people's security and safety? Because, you know, ultimately borders are an element of defence. But I think there's a deeper question for me about identity, about who we are, and it's another reason for me to doubt myself and to doubt the conclusions that I've come to, and to want to find out, despite 3 years of debate and study for me as well, you know, how much of my internationalism is driven by my own formation of identity over 50 years of being involved in sort of liberal politics and liberal concerns, and being an idealist. And how much can I get away from some of the other things that have formed my political identity, I suppose, my expectations and my needs and wants over the 50 years. So I'll show you some pictures from the event today of all the flags that one sees. I've been struck throughout the 3 years of the Brexit campaign, issue, palaver, how ready people are to grab a flag, and actually how the European Union flag and the British Union flag have been really at the forefront. Actually, you can see in the background, flags have been really at the forefront of this issue as people have wanted to express something to do with loyalty to a government, to an institution, to a political body, and express patriotism and all the things that they associate with those flags. And I find it really surprising, because for me to step away from a simple loyalty just to the nation state that I'm born in, and to seek a more international community, is actually to say, well, let's do away with flags, because although it's great to have the European Union as a symbol of a greater union, this is still a union with borders. This is still a union that says, if you're not one of us, you're an outsider. If you're not with us, perhaps you're against us. Or certainly our interests come first. So there's a real question to me, seeing how people have so quickly grasped a flag and said, no, I have a loyalty to something that isn't a loyalty to the whole human race, to all of society. Now, whether that tells us that there's something innate that I can't get away from and you can't get away from, or whether that's simply something that's been formed by our experience, that all of us are brought up within a nation state and asked to have a certain amount of loyalty, or at least concern for the state and the people in the community around us. It may be that we can't get away from that. So I'm really interested in finding out. I'm going to take some pictures of some of the placards today and see what messages people are presenting, as well as the messages conveyed by the flags. Whitehall, hopefully you can hear this. The scene behind me is Whitehall, which is absolutely gridlocked with people. There's no movement, and I'm just in a side road which I turn around, you can see it's full of people just trying to find a way around. There's so many people on this march, it's ridiculous. Well, it's taken me 3.5 hours to get from the march's start in Hyde Park down to Whitehall and the destination of Parliament Square, which I didn't quite get to because it was just so crowded in the street leading up to it, which is Whitehall. And in the background far behind me is Downing Street, and I've turned off Whitehall at Downing Street to try and say some summing up words. Some of the things that I've been thinking about while I've been walking along and taking pictures of banners and filming banners and music and all the sights and sounds of the march. I've seen lots of flags, the EU flag of course, and also the Union flag, and also the Welsh and Scottish flags, and even the flag of Cornwall, which is a land within England itself, a land with its own identity and history. So that motif of identity, of national or international identity, has been very strong as expected. I've also seen banners about different identities, a lot actually around women as particularly affected by Brexit and by the international issue, and women demanding a say in a world where the sort of patriarchy, male power has prevented them from having a voice, and has also failed to recognise the impacts of powerful government decisions on women and the unfairness of those impacts on women. One of the things that I'm interested in covering on the OnePeopleOne.World website is how we understand the individual's role and the nation's role perhaps in determining our politics and determining how we're governed or how we govern ourselves. And that's been a big issue, I think, in the Brexit debate, partly due to the difficulty of defining borders now. We've experienced, I think, in Britain, the Brexit as an attempt by one section of society, the majority, certainly in the Brexit vote, saying that they want to be an individually self-determined nation state without that integration with Europe. And that's been a problem because there's a border with Ireland, which remains in the European Union, and the idea that the Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and residents of Northern Ireland who are British citizens can be entirely separated has proved very difficult because of the history of conflict and also because of the reality of people's lives. So the issue of national self-determination as an attempt by those who would seek to leave the European Union has been found to be actually quite difficult to do in reality. And the sort of issue of determination runs a bit deeper as well. As an example, this week the UK Prime Minister has made a sort of perhaps ill-judged speech, and she professed to represent the will of the people, and the sort of million or so people marching in London today, well, they all have a very different will. So this attempt by politicians repeatedly to state that their view is the will of the people has again been shown to be mere rhetoric. Of course, we're all different, and I live on a street of about 20 people. It would be ridiculous of me to think that we all shared the same will. I look at them, and they're all British residents, perhaps British citizens. I don't really care. Why on earth should I believe that they think the same thing that I do? And why should I demand that? It doesn't seem to be a problem to me that we're all different. It doesn't seem to make it difficult for us to live in the same political community, because the similarities that we have around decent civil behaviour enable us to live together effectively without any concern about our particular identity as British or English, Scottish, whatever it is. I'm now on my way back home on the Sunday after the march, the day after the march, and sitting at Peterborough train station waiting for a connection. Peterborough, if you don't know, is a town in sort of English Midlands, which I think voted for Brexit. So perhaps, well, not quite surrounded. The people at this station are not the same people that were at the march yesterday. My favourite placard from yesterday has to be the one about the 14 Spanish boyfriends, which I thought was really funny. The woman holding it was from a group of people, and they were all writing new banners all the time and having a great time being creative about it. I liked it for its humour, but also I think it raised some interesting points about this process by which the state, in the form, in this case, of the United Kingdom, is restricting the freedom of its citizens, people who see themselves as global or international citizens of some kind. And if you think about that woman's placard, it's about the relationships that she can have, and it's about her freedom to choose what sort of citizen she wants to be. And it's about her future, you know, and it's really important in all our futures that we get to decide, I think, who are our partners. You know, even if we want 14 of them, which I don't know whether she was actually saying that. But at the same time, people who didn't vote to stay in the European Union might argue, practically, most of us don't want 14 Spanish boyfriends or 14 partners, or maybe even one partner from another country. People might argue that practically community and society and relationships is mostly, for most people, most of the time, about the local, about the people we know, about the culture that we know. And that it's a great ideal and a romantic idea to have 14 Spanish boyfriends, but practically we need to, for the sake of order and community and culture, mostly stick with the local. Quite soon after she was chosen as leader of the Conservative Party and therefore Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Theresa May made a speech, and this is also soon after the Brexit referendum. She made a speech in which she said, "Oh, train coming." In which she said that people who consider themselves to be citizens of the world are really citizens of nowhere. And I think the woman in the photograph with the placard about the 14 Spanish boyfriends might argue that she's quite happy to think of herself as a citizen of the world, and that's what she's saying. And I think of myself as a citizen of the world. That one of the sort of consequences of the Prime Minister's statement about the citizens of the world being citizens of nowhere is it leads to the conclusion that the world is nowhere. And the problem with that is the world isn't nowhere. The world is a place. I'm sitting on it. I'm surrounded by air that is sort of held by the gravity of a single planet. And its transport links, even in the UK's case, its rail infrastructure is international, is global. I can get on a train in Peterborough to London and get on another train there, which will take me under the sea, and I can get on further trains which will take me to the far end of Southeast Asia. So this idea that the world isn't a place is one that I'm interested in, and that the sort of conflict between the reality of a single planet that we're living on together and this maybe common sense view that actually the local's important is something that I want to explore with my website OnePeopleOne.World. I'm launching the website with an art competition, maybe a photo competition, but you could do a painting or a drawing, make a collage, make yourself a fancy dress outfit, get creative, draw something in the sand, I don't know, maybe don't get an aeroplane and write a message in the sky. One of the reasons that I'm choosing to focus on art early on in this sort of globalist website, or website with a global interest, is to make sure that we try to break down language barriers. If I make the site just about just in the English language, then it sends a message that this is about the English-speaking world, and one of the problems with that is the English-speaking political world and economic world is very dominant over other people around the world, and I think it's unjust. So I want people to understand that people from other languages can participate. The other reason that I've chosen to try and focus on art in the early days of the website is to sort of move us away from the sort of polarised debate, the idea that either we're localist or we're globalist, because I understand that politics often comes down to a choice of one option or another, but I don't think it's necessarily very helpful when we're trying to work as a community to consider and plan our future and how we live together. So by using art, it prevents us from simply seeing the world through the sort of language of one political statement. Obviously, we can use art to make political points, but I think it moves us away, hopefully it moves us away from the sort of the idea of us and them, and there's something shared, I think, about appreciation of art. So hopefully we can try and make that happen. I welcome everybody to participate, old or young, talented or less confident. I'd love to have hundreds of entrants. I'd be very busy handling them all, and the judges would have a big job to do. It would be great to get entrants from all around the world, so please do have a look at the details about the competition and send stuff in. I'm going to try to display as many of the entrants as I can on the website, and I'm going to make sure that the winner becomes the sort of banner picture on the homepage for a good period of months. Thanks for entering.